Okay, welcome back. I am so excited to have everyone here today, and I'm even more excited as usual. I mean, you guys hear this every time we have her here, but Jessica Waclawski from Vail Relationship Institute is back with us, and we are going to have a super sweet conversation today about cultivating real love. It's the perfect month for that. Whether you are needing to love yourself more, love another more, what have you. We're going to talk about it and dive deep into it today for the next 45 minutes. So I am going to hand this over without another moment to spare to Miss Jessica.
Oh, thank you, Holly. I love at this point, like seeing familiar faces and getting to know you all. It's such a treat. I truly get excited. Just joining the space with you all and like having Holly reach out again. I was like, oh yay, goody. We're gonna keep this going this year too. So just excited to be here with you. As I like to do, I like to cultivate this space for you all. You know, you're such givers in the work you do that I love, like kind of coming in and coming together and allowing this space for you to kind of tap into yourself, get some good juicy self-reflection, and hopefully get something that's nourishing for you. And you know, sometimes that nourishment can be challenging. Sometimes it might bring up something that's a little uncomfortable, and I'm like the biggest cheerleader for just getting uncomfortable because that's really where our growth happens. So I love that idea. We're going to have a sweet conversation, and I hope that it also might get you thinking and feeling in new different ways. And so, you know, welcome that. If you find that edge that's like, ooh, this feels a little prickly, let's see if we can just lean into it just a little bit more as we explore what is this whole love thing all about, and pause and bring in more purposeful conversation reflection around it. So I love to start with a bit of grounding meditation. So if you can, I know we are kind of balancing maybe work, but if you're able to pause what you're doing, close out for sure any you know, screens and things that you don't need, to be more fully present here. Again, it's a short moment in time. Silence those phones, put the computer on do not disturb, and let's just really show up here a bit more focused, a bit more attentive. And I'll invite you to, if you're able to, drop in and let's close our eyes for a minute and pause, right? What a beautiful time midday to pause for a moment. And let's sit up straight. You know, I like this idea of a strong, awake, but yet also relaxed posture. Roll those shoulders back. You've been working a bit. So just reopening up that heart space and drop in. Let's begin to draw that attention, that energy more inward for a moment. Inhaling and exhaling through your nostrils. Slowing down, finding some stillness. And just begin to notice what's present for you, what's happening inside. Again, the reminder being that whatever is here has every right to be here, whatever it is. And maybe we can meet ourselves with a bit more gentleness, a bit more permission to be as we are. And just keep breathing in. And with each breath, offering a bit more expansion into that heart space. And so that's really more like the center of your chest rather than the physical heart. We're looking at the energetic heart space. And as we discuss and talk about this idea of love, so much of that energy resides in that heart space. Just check in there, bring your attention, bring your focus into that area of your body and see what's happening. What's it feeling like today? Is that heart space feeling more constricted, blocked? Or is there a sense of openness, flowing? Again, just begin to bring your awareness to that space within you. And maybe even starting to, with that inhale, expanding that center of your chest, allowing it to open just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Allowing whatever might be causing restriction or rigidity to almost like see it melt away. Begin to embody this feeling of allowing yourself to feel love within inside yourself. Allowing that light to grow inside. Let's keep working with that breath just a little bit longer, just another moment. If there's anything you're needing, ask yourself, what do I need in this moment? Notice what it's like to check in this way. When you're ready, let's come back into the room, slowly batting your eyes open, maybe just slow, gentle movements to your body. Beautiful. And again, just a reminder that if you are willing to show us your face on the video, I would love to see you all. Thank you, Holly. Yeah, really notice, like I've been meeting with you all mostly in the evening. So it's a real treat to take this pause like this and just slow it down, check in. And, that is loving. That is an act of love to and for yourself. And we're going to talk a bit about how important that is to start here, to start at home. So I'd love to just have you, I'm very experiential. I don't like just talking at you. So, whether you do have pen and paper, I really encourage that if you can, because there's actually a neurological process when we hand write out our thoughts, even rather than typing. But if you're not able to write in this moment, that's all right as well. But just really contemplate for a moment. When you hear this word love, what comes up for you? And give yourself almost just a little bit of space here. Just write out, like stream of conscious, like what, anything and everything. Give it full permission. What comes up? And really like dig into that earth. When you hear this word love, what starts to show up? Start to like really, excavate that space. And I would so welcome dropping in a few notes into the chat, a few words of what's coming up for you. Again, in this space, let's co-create some safety and permission by reducing any judgments and really just meeting each other with that curiosity. Acceptance. Love that. Yeah. Really thinking about like the full spectrum, joy, warmth. Yeah, right. And maybe as you tapped into that meditation, what was that like? What was it like to maybe be able to expand the heart a little bit more, to open it? Yeah, John, I was kind of with you too, of like sometimes love for me like brings up, fear, right? Like, ooh, uh-oh, right? That demands my heart be pulled open. And even sometimes pain, right? They say grief is the emotion of all the leftover love. It's powerful. Yeah, keep playing with that, right? This is a really rich concept. If we think about what does love really mean to me? And how can we maybe begin today, right? This is just like kickstarting a process and how we gauge our expectations for this time together. Like, how might we be able to expand our concepts around what love is? How can we expand it? Because that is the energy of love. It's expanding. And fear, it's is the limiting energy. It's opposite, right? It's not to say fear is bad. It's just its opposite. They go hand in hand. We really, in this idea of duality is we can't have one without the other. So in some ways we need to have the experience of fear to even know what love is, and vice versa. But the energy of love is one of expansion. Mm. And this idea of love, like, what is it? And how do we cultivate real love? This is the material for poets and philosophers, right? And it's deep. Like, for me, it's such deep, like, territory of the soul, to really get in there and feel what quote unquote real love is moving beyond just the mind and what we might call kind of ego, and into something so much deeper. And I offer that love is more an experience than it is anything we can really pin down. And yet, as human beings, we just know what it is when we feel it, right? We just know it. Nobody has to, like, here's a textbook on what it is. Many people have tried to write about it, but it's just this elusive, intangible feeling we have that's core. It's such a core to how we are and who we are as human beings, and such a core to how we are, wired for connection and relationship. And so it's like this intuitive understanding, and what a gift to know what that love and feeling is, and how painful it is when we miss connecting to that feeling, right? We long for it. There's this like universal yearning for it that can be so rich. And again, very expansive in what that really means, like what we're really yearning for when we think about, yeah, what is love? Mm. I'm popping into the chat just to catch up here. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it's like this, I think love is this very dynamic relationship that we have within ourselves, right? Our relationship to love, like, think about that, right? So it's a dynamic deal. It's always changing. It's fluid. When you think about, like, when you're new and you're deeply in that state of love, right? You want it to kind of last forever, but there's also reasons why it can't, because you got to get stuff done eventually. And so, but there's a way for us to actually learn how to cultivate space within ourselves so that we can stay more open to the powerful energy that love can give us. Again, that expansion. And that's what I think so often we kind of miss, or we aren't taught how, or we just forget how to continue to cultivate that energy and that heart space of openness to sustain and maintain our relationship with love, because it's that relationship first that sets like the foundation for us to ever be able to enter into a loving relationship outside of ourselves. Does that make sense a bit? If I ever say anything and you're like, girlfriend, you are losing me, bop in here, shout it out, put in the chat, like, pause me before you're left in your confusion, please. Yeah, Holly, your statement, self-love isn't selfish. Do you want to just say anything more about that?
Unmute first. um, Yeah, I see that all over the place.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
constantly, I think, and it's more so been since, we've all been on this lockdown of COVID, and that I've seen people post that all over social media almost as a reminder.
Mm,
And I always love when I see it and I like it and all that kind of stuff. But this conversation really brought that to the forefront.
mm,
Like, you really do have to start with yourself and accepting and loving yourself before you can be free to love anybody else, and or share that love, right, with anybody
mm,
else, and maybe to even recognize it. You know,
mhm, mhm,
that the idea of, like, joy and warmth, and I'm kind of going back and reading what some of the comments are: the insecure, the unstable, little, it's scary yet
yes.
fulfilling, all at the same time, these crazy emotions. But we can't, unless we really love ourselves, we can't identify even those kind of feelings around it, and accept those feelings around it for wherever we are right now. That's kind of.
Yeah, well said. I like that, and I liked how you said, about sharing, right? We cultivate it here, and then it's like, "Oh, I get to share this now." I loved that. I really love that. I'll be taking that with me, so thank you. Um, yeah, exactly, like, there is this kind of big, like, wave of, yeah, self-love, 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 but, I think where I've often kind of struggled with that is it almost, it's like, well, what does that really mean? We don't really get into that conversation of how difficult that is and how that's actually one of the most challenging uh, jobs is cultivating this within, right? It's an incredibly personal and inside job, and it ain't easy. And I think so often I almost feel this like emotional bypassing happening when people are talking about like love of self, because they're not acknowledging how difficult it really is to go in there and cultivate and prepare the ground for that love to take root. And so then people are often left feeling quite like shameful actually, because it's like, oh, what am I doing wrong, or why don't I get this, or why is this hard for me? So I'm curious, if that resonates with people. I know, yeah, that's always a challenge and growth curve for me, is to come back to myself and find the parts of me that are raw and tender and that haven't been well taken care of, and that need that medicine of learning how to love the parts of me that are really tough to like, let alone love. Thanks, John. So, I liked too that reflection there, Holly, of right, there is this truth that truly, like, if we're not liking who we are in the inside, we're not gonna be able to authentically love anyone else. We'll maybe be able to kinda have it for a moment, but it'll quickly slide through our fingers, or we'll get mistaken and confused about grasping for love to fill up this, right? So we might then be demonstrating, like, control over others, or, anxious neediness, that I need you to fill this or you complete me. Like, that's a very unhealthy mindset to bring into a relationship. And so, what I want you to offer to you all today is, how can you begin to come back here before you go out there in your journey in love? And so, try this exercise a little bit. I want you to think about and write down something about yourself that you really love. You're like, this part of me, I just think is the shit, and I just love this about me. And just be honest about, like, maybe it's your hair, maybe, or it's a quality, whatever it is. No judgment, no judgment. And this is just for you. I won't be asking you to share this. So just reflect, what's something about me I just really love. Just really love. And then notice. Notice what's happening. Again, like we started off with the meditation, go inward a bit and just pay attention to your body. What's happening inside when you tap into this space, this way of relating to yourself of, I really love this about me. Notice what's happening. Notice that experience. Notice if it's difficult. I often have that experience when I'm doing this work with people, is that they can encounter quite a barrier of, I don't know what I love about myself. And that's okay too. That's perfectly okay. It's wonderful and beautiful that you're noticing that that is a block and that we can work with. So if this isn't easy for you, that's perfectly okay. And if that's true, notice what it's like to feel that block. Again, being very gentle and very careful with not bringing in any additional shame or judgment. We all have blocks. And then let's explore what's a part of you that you don't like so much, that you do not love, that you're like, I don't want anyone to know about this part of me. And if it ever creeps out, you feel rather maybe embarrassed or shameful, and you struggle with that. So write that down. What's this part of you that you kind of like keep in the shadows? And we all have them. So this is the other thing I like to remind people, because the biggest defense that you will have with your own self is convincing yourself, oh no, I don't have any part of me I don't like or love. Mm-mm. You are a human being. There are parts of you you do not like or love. It's there. So if you're struggling to connect with that part, that's okay. Again, just acknowledge and maybe try assuming, well, there's got to be something. And just begin to become more open to exploring that and acknowledging that. And now do the same. Pause and go inward. And closing our eyes helps us because it reduces the stimulation. So just notice what it's like then to kind of tap into this part of you you're not so fond of. What's that like? What's that like? Let's be with that a little bit, right? Like this is a practice in and of itself. It's noticing. Just notice. Don't even judge yourself. Just go, huh, look at that experience. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, yeah. And think about like what you do with this part. Think about what you do with this part that you don't like so much. Maybe all the ways you try to conceal it, cover it up, hide it. Yeah, get in there, get curious about that. What do I do with this part? How do I, try to keep it from the world, keep it from myself, and consider all that energy, the energy it takes to reject it, to disown it. And yet there it is, day in and day out. It's just part of you coming along for the ride. And what would it be like to just begin to accept this part of you as part of you? What would it be like to let go of the energy of needing to reject it and resist it and say, yeah, you're part of me. How are we going to work on this relationship? What are we going to do with this? What might that be like? What might it be like to stretch it even further, to actually learn to love this part of you? Like now we're stepping into like radical ideas of love. Like to love the part of me I dislike most. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. That is extreme stuff. And what does that actually mean to you, right? Like, well, notice what comes up. Like, I can feel different parts of me coming up right now that are even a bit resistant of like, are you fucking kidding me? You know, like, if I love it, then I'm saying it's okay, right? Like, okay, I'm seeing some head nods. So that's resonating with you all too. Yeah. Yeah. And these are just like, again, things to notice, right? These are our defenses. These are our conditioning, even that to love a part that we don't like would mean we're excusing it. We're saying it's an okay behavior when perhaps we can, again, expand our view of what love is as really embodying understanding, an understanding of what it means to first and foremost be human in this life. And that means we're imperfect. That means we got some ugly. And rather than needing to pretend we don't, how can we just say, yeah, and you're so lovable. And you are so lovable. Like, ooh, what if we said that to ourselves? We said, yeah, you got some ugly. Yeah, it's called being human. But you're still so lovable. And I'm still so in love with you. Right? Like there's always so much talk about being in love with other. When are we actually exploring being in love with ourselves? That feels different. And that means, right, like if you think about like times when you're in love with another, you're really not focused so much on negative or bad parts. You're really more actually accommodating, understanding, and forgiving and giving a lot of grace to another, person and being. Whether maybe it's your child, your dog, your partner, your spouse, right? What if that's how you work to cultivate toward yourself? Is this making sense? Is this resonating a bit? That's what I really think are the ingredients to like what real love might be. These are just my thoughts. Again, like this is your relationship. But I think it's really about this deep, 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 like, like understanding, just like, yeah, we got stuff that's hard and challenging, and that can be loved too. This is, really work of the shadow, which is an area I specialize in, of where we look at what's in the dark parts of ourselves and we learn to meet it and accept it and integrate it rather than keep it away, right? I asked you, how do you hide this? How do you cover it up? And how could we integrate it? This is part of who I am. And this is the call of like the healing journey in a way, is a very loving way of being whole in this world and knowing I'm imperfect. And that's such an important part of real love, is incorporating imperfection. I mean, that's the idealisticness of what we call unconditional love, is loving it all, no matter what. Now, none of us are enlightened or, completely godlike. So honestly, not one of us human beings are capable of true unconditional love. We're not. So we gotta stop demanding it from everybody else because we can't give it. No one can love you unconditionally except for maybe yourself. Feel that. Because we all got, yeah, Holly. Yeah, that's a whole nother level. I mean, play with that a little bit. That's a whole like 2-hour, 3-hour workshop right there. So let me pause here. I want to pause, and if possible, like let me check in, because I can sometimes get carried away, and then here I find myself in a deep well. I'm like, oh geez, how do we get in here? Where are we? Especially those who are really engaged here, like thoughts, and feel free to just go on mute and just tell me like what's happening in your body, what's resonating for you.
John must be with someone because he's usually all in. I'm waiting to pin his I'm waiting to pin his face.
What about you, Christine? I'm curious. I see you over there. I see your head nodding. I'm just so curious. I feel that. Or Holly, like when you said like that's deep, what do you mean by that? What got you?
Unmute. I have to unmute. I'm talking and not unmuting. Well, I mean, spiritually speaking, I mean, I certainly am a woman of faith. I would, I certainly label myself as a Christian. And, not to pull religion in it per se, but that this idea of unconditional love is what we're taught. I mean, as you know, I posted up here a little further in our chat that the love is patient, it's kind, not envious, or boastful, it's not proud. Encompasses this unconditional love that we are taught, whether we are Christians or not, Buddhist, Hindu, I mean, just about every religion out there, or not, maybe you don't believe in anything like that. We still are all taught about unconditional love, right? And so to me, this idea, this thought, that you're right, we're not God. None of us are. We know that. But to accept that we really cannot truly give unconditional love is very deep and thought provoking, particularly for me, who, and I would imagine others, who have children.
Yeah.
We're constantly trying to teach ourselves and our children that you need to love people unconditionally. And maybe that idea has to be more like love people without judgment. I don't know. Like remove the judgment from that relationship or what you think of that person, because ultimately you really don't know what they're feeling inside or what's really going on at home or whatever. So remove that judgment, and that might be the closest we can get to truly giving unconditional love. But I mean, that's something that's almost like was hard to accept, actually. You said that. And but I appreciate it because it actually really is true. I've never thought of that,
Beautiful. No, thank you so much for that. Thank you. And right, I love that. I think children are such beautiful teachers of bringing in, like really showing, right, where we have those edges or barriers or limitations in our hearts, the blockages, like I said. And that's the forever journey here. When you kind of open up to this work or this pathway, is exploring the heart space and exploring, when do I feel really expansive and when do I feel constricted, or what judgments show up for me. It's learning to meet that with that curiosity, so then we can melt and dissolve judgment. Because you're right, love is the absence of judgment. It's really being able to see, yes, kind of weaving in. I mean, it's such a spiritual concept. I don't think you can really have a conversation about what real love is without getting into this other plane and level. And it's peeling back these veils around our eyes and just seeing the pureness of who we really are inside. And yet our fears, our hurts and pains and traumas of life understandably can cloud that more pure, loving view of ourselves and others. And so the invitation here is to, again, get curious of how does my heart get blocked? When do I have judgment? Because I do, because I'm a human being, and saying that's okay because I'm imperfect and I'm learning. And every time I show up with my heart blocked, I'm not connecting to love in its whole form. This is deep stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Any other thoughts? I always love the feedback. And this might be material, right? I know you are in the middle of your work days, but to come back to take it in here and maybe come back, re-listen to some of this, do some of the exercises again so you can really, dig in and focus here. And when we bring more love to ourselves, we are able to identify love on the outside. And relational speaking, this is where we end up kind of tripping over ourselves and ending up at snares and traps in relationship, whether it's friendship, family, intimate relationships. So again, expanding this view of love, because so often we're so quick to hear love and we go straight to like the most intimate relationship. But right, expand your view of love. And if I don't know what love is like with myself, I'm going to be very challenged to identify it in relationship to others. And I'll get very confused about what love actually is, because if I'm stuck in patterns of self-judgment and shame and belittling and striving to be perfect in this world, then that's going to come out in either my expectations of other people or how I expect them to also treat me. And I won't be able to cultivate healthy, kind of boundary stuff around what's okay, what's not okay, because I actually don't know what real love really tastes like. So Holly's wisdom earlier in her reflection around, we won't be able to identify it. Exactly. And so then we keep attracting, actually. Well, it's not so much we're attracting, it's just that we're more drawn toward energies and people that are going to reinforce what might be seen as like a limiting belief, which is just a belief that's based in fear, shame, and judgment. Yeah. So that's where people get very, frustrated with themselves of like, there's this damn pattern that I keep like, I really thought this one was different. I really thought like, this relationship would be healthy, but they hadn't done the inner work of realizing how they still feel unlovable, unworthy, and seeking to get the validation externally rather than here within. That's a game changer. That is an energetic game changer. Yeah, it does take work. I'm always careful about that because, we all are like, fuck, more work. But, there just is. It takes, it takes effort. It's not easy. It's hard at first. At first, it's like climbing it's just a tough climb. But then you get your pace, you get a new rhythm, you cultivate, you start to feel the benefits of like lightness, expansion, less reactivity. And it's like, oh, this is fucking worth it. And so I do want to offer that so that we don't get so paralyzed by the fear of work. Oh God. And like, all right, I'm ready, like I'm going to do this. So what do we think, Holly? What is there anything else, like questions, thoughts? You want me to get clear about something?
Well, first of all, this conversation, this topic could go on for hours, as you mentioned earlier. And I wish it could go on for hours. I would love to open it up. I know, again, some are kind of doing a little bit of double duty, but if you have any thoughts or comments that you want to go ahead and put into the chat, I'm happy to put it out there for you. Or I see Brooke unmuting maybe and showing her face. No, okay. I was gonna pin her, add her little beautiful face to the conversation. But yeah, anything, I'm happy to sort of speak on your behalf. I mean, I just see, so many wonderful little comments in here too. Feel good from making others feel good is one of those comments. I love that. It really does, I think, warm the heart to make another feel good. But I think, again, kind of to the topic of getting inward, I don't think that, we can truly make another feel good if we don't feel good about ourselves. and sometimes that comes and it goes. Like, it doesn't mean that we have to, that we're maybe so deep where, we're always, being in the kind of patterns that you were just, talking about.
Mhm.
But those times when we don't feel good, we're not making others feel good. And so it's like a little bit of an emotional roller coaster, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's I like this word reciprocal dance
Mm-hmm.
because it's not so cut and dry. Nothing about especially our emotional world is. So it's not we just want to be aware is what I want to offer because actually the data and research is always showing us that when we're in a personal struggle place, when we're battling depression, the best antidepressant is volunteer work. 10 times more effective than a prescription medication. So giving to others actually helps open our hearts. It cracks us open from because our depressive states, I'm not saying this with judgment, but it might sound that way. It's actually a very selfish way of being. We get tunnel vision. All we think about is the mess we're in, the pain we're in, the heartache, and all the fears. We get this tunnel vision on ourselves. And that's kind of right, the heart saying, that doesn't serve you to be self-focused like that. Expand into you have purpose in this world. You have the ability and capability to be of service, to have impact. And that's why giving to others does warm up the heart and it helps us get going again. So it's not that's kind of where I have a issue with some of the self-love talk is it actually is selfish. A lot of this modern bypassing in self-help world, it's really toxic stuff, guys, because it's not interweaving the importance of relationship in there too. So I think, right, that is an important distinction of saying it's not like you just got to go and just go so internal all the time. It's really this dance of going inward, coming out, this whole like reciprocal nature of it. And so I hope that can be helpful too in clarifying that the best thing you can do when you're feeling really down is actually to pick your head up and maybe reach out to someone. What I have tended to do is I'll reach out to people to say, hey, how are you doing today? Just to help me get outside of myself and remember my world is bigger than just this struggle point I'm in right now, while also not going over swinging and getting caught up in everybody else's shit and forgetting about taking care of mine. You feel it? It's a dance.
Mm.
It's a dance.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point and way to sort of think about it because I mean, sometimes when you're feeling down or you're not feeling good about yourself, it's almost like you have to convince yourself to get off the couch and just go do something. That when you were talking about earlier, like what's the thing about you that you really don't love? Like sometimes I have that self-doubt, right? And I try to stuff it by keeping myself busy and like, just almost ignoring it and sticking it in the back when I really need to more so maybe pause, right? Set that aside and go help somebody else or go put that energy into somebody else. And then I think then I can refocus and get a new sort of sense of vision, I guess, if you will. I don't know if that really makes some sense, but I'm loving what some of these, other statements are saying too, like, overwhelming compassion and gratitude for where I am at this moment to be able to receive and give. I think that is, you know, um, I think that's something that I personally would always strive for and do always strive for to be able to be in that place where I can do both. And I love this other comment that I think you just replied to. So I'll read the comment and then I'll let you respond. But another one of our participants said, it's hard to think about removing self judgment when I have always thought of it as what I need to remember so I can improve.
Yeah. Yeah, so I offer, reflect on this idea, this part of you, right? Consider it a part that says you must improve, right? And there is beauty in that. There's a motivation, there's that understanding that we can grow as human beings. However, that can become unhealthy when we get so stuck in the imperfection, like I have to be better. And so the other invitation is to the first step before we want to change anything in our lives is to accept what is, to accept it and grow into loving it exactly as it is, with all the shit, the suffering, the pain, imperfect, all of it. Like, how can I open up enough to love it exactly as it is before I'm striving and anxiously pursuing to change it? Because that means we're resisting and we're blocking. So, yeah, there's the practice. Before I want to improve, can I accept what is?
Love that.
Yeah.
For sure. It's almost like, what is that? The serenity prayer.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I don't personally know that very well, but it's like the one thing that always stands out is accept the things I cannot change.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
some people watching this may know that prayer more personally, but I think that is something important about that self-love, right?
Yeah.
Accepting
Yeah.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I do agree to that point. Like self-love can be totally selfish. It depends on, I guess, what
Yeah.
you're doing with it, right? Are you accepting it? Are you learning to accept it and to make it part of who you are and grow into loving that part of you that's not perfect? um that way you can then share that with others.
Yeah. And we all know that feeling, maybe bringing this to a close of like that feeling or those moments when you just have been in the presence of that pure kind of, I just love you for who you are. And that might be like our furry family are such good teachers and role models of that. Like, I just love you. I just think you're really great. And sometimes you can, forget to feed me or walk me or not be so nice, but I just think you're really great. you know?
So
And
true.
so I just offer that. I'm a dog mom and they're just always teaching me of like forgiveness and grace and like, it's all good, Here
Yeah,
we are. We're living this life. Let's lighten up a little and love a little more. That's it. So,
so great. I know we're out of time.
yeah.
If anyone has any last minute thoughts, go ahead and type them on in. I will save this chat, and if there's any follow up or any of you, if you want to continue the conversation, follow Jessica on Instagram. We tag her all the time. So if you're following the Rocky Mountain Spa on Instagram, we do it on Facebook as well. LinkedIn, we're on it all. We just started Twitter not that long ago. I have like 11 followers, people. So let's
Woo!
start following. Twitter's not my friend, but hey, trying something new. But anyways, follow us all and stay engaged in the conversation. I am just so grateful that all of you really carved out some time for us today. I know some of you are doing double duty, but it certainly means a lot to me. And I also know to Jessica that that you all are joining us each week in and out, and especially for these truly important conversations that really open our minds to thinking deeper and to becoming our better angels of ourselves, right? Next week we have on Tuesday. So the rest of the month we're meeting on Tuesdays at noon for the next 3 weeks. We have Hyper Ice next week. They have a really cool topic. They're going to talk to us about. I'm probably going to bash this, but operativity, two words in one, recovery, and how to use their great technology to recover post activities here in the mountains and certainly anywhere else. We're an active bunch around here. So join us for that. That is noon. You can learn more about that on our website. Go to Rocky Mountain Spa, ASSOC.com. Check out our events page, and you can register for any of our events from there. So one other quick housekeeping note is a couple of our events this month do have goodies that they want to send out to everybody. So if you would like your goodies in time for the conversation, definitely go check out our website and make sure that you register by whatever that deadline is, and you'll get your goodies in time. So thank you again so much, Jessica. We're going to do this again, and I'm going to hold you to this. We are planning a October retreat again.
Let's do it.
So we're gonna have you longer this time.
Oh, I'm excited.
I'll send you a save the date.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you all. Have a wonderful
Bye, guys.
week, and we will see you soon.